Hello, everyone. I'm your host, David, KG5UBB, for this live stream of the Digitally Speaking Net. Our actual net will start in approximately 12 minutes. So right now I'm going to transfer you guys over to our software-defined radio software, and just hold on for the ride. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and 73 KG5UBB transferring you to our state-of-the-art software-defined radio.
Anything in a 25-mile-an-hour wind is that much more difficult because of the amount of blockage that I'm offering.
Just a heads up, everyone, it might take a little bit. Right now, we're just setting up software-defined radio. Okay, everybody, we have our software-defined radio set up, and we're going to transfer you guys to the repeater output.
Way too funny. Way too funny. When I get ready to shove it a little higher in the air, though, I'm probably going to invite a few folks over when we're ready to push it up there, because I definitely don't want to be the only one standing there and trying to pin it while you're pushing it. That's, yeah, you're asking for problems when that happens. Very good, very good. Yep, we're just riding back from the airport up to the house and enjoying the afternoon. So just Taylor and me in the truck. Roger, Roger. Yeah, we're gonna have to make that run to the airport this week. I've got the in-laws coming. We spent this morning cleaning out the garage. Stopped and fired up one of the generators just to check and make sure that that was functional here this season. And one of them passed and the other one didn't. So gonna do a little work on the other one, I think. Let me ask you a question, Scott. Do you run a portable air compressor? And if so, do you put an oiler on that unit or not? I have one of the Harbor Freight portable air compressors. It's one of the ones on wheels. And it does have an oiler in it, but boy, I can't remember the last time I added oil to it, though. It's been a little while. Yeah, they ran a special, and I just, it's like, okay, should I go get it, or should I keep $100 in my pocket? And I just have the compressor, so I've got it, and it's got that oiler inline attachment, and I didn't know if anybody else was finding that worked out well enough, or if there was a different one that I should buy and put on there as an aftermarket or whatever, but just a question. KC5HAL. No problem there, Hal. Yeah, like I said, I've only used what came along with mine. I've had it for several years and never, I do check it from time to time, but I don't remember having to add too awful much to it. Other folks may be different. Like I said, I got the cheap one from Harbor Freight, just because that was one of the disposable items that I figured I could have. Somebody else may have a better answer. And I heard KG5UBB in there as well. Welcome, David. Correct. Well, I talked to Lee a little bit ago, and he said he's around here around 2 o'clock. So, yeah, expecting here right at 1900 hours that will start. And I've got the logger up as well here. KG5RJR. half the fun with this hobby, David, is that we get to see people learn and grow, and then they expand beyond what we ever did. And I've learned a ton from Hal and Lee and all the guys that are on this net, and I don't mind passing on anything, and I think the guys were more than happy to help you with your antenna there. So I'm glad to hear every adventure you're having with that stuff. It's phenomenal. KG5RJR. Of me. Catch the call there, but I heard somebody in there. Go again. You're calling everybody else's name and you forgot me. AG5GB. Didn't hear you in there, but good to have you. Cloudy and cool today, but looks like it's going to be a pretty good day. AG5GB. I don't know. It wasn't too cool. It was good enough that we worked in the garage most of the morning. I think we got that to the point that we can get access to the tools and be able to maybe build a wall here this next week. Progress is always good, my friend. Did I hear Hal? Is Hal still out there? AG5GB.
This is K5WXR, and nice conversation going on. I just wanted to alert everyone who may be listening that that will start in about 5 minutes. So please go ahead and continue with your conversation. K5WXR.
Mr. Lee, KC5HAL AG5GB. Hamnet. AG5GB cleared, stand by. I know that he said he was coming back from the airport, so he may be in a spot where he can't answer for the moment, but I know that he was talking about the airport a couple minutes ago. Sounds good, appreciate it. AG5GB. Hamnet.
KG5 Uniform Bravo Bravo. David, this is Lee, K5WXR, and that's going to begin in about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. So if you'd like to use the repeater for the next couple of minutes, feel free. But otherwise, we'll begin in just a real short time. K5WXR.
14 hours, 0 minutes, 60 degrees.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much for that. And by the way, anyone who is listening, there's a couple of ways. I mean, if you wanted to get to the live stream or share that with somebody who's not listening, I guess if they're listening, they probably don't need it exactly now. But anyway, there's a website, digitallyspeakingnet.net. That's digitallyspeakingnet, all squished together. .net, and there is a link there on that web page that will click to the live stream. Or perhaps David, if you'd like to tell everyone how to get to that YouTube live stream, would you like to announce it now? Please feel free to go ahead. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. I'll be right back. K5WXR. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Digitally Speaking, the what I hope you'll find is the friendliest, most informative, or casual net on ham radio. I don't know. Does that sound conceited? Let me back that off a bit and just say, welcome aboard. I hope you have fun. If anyone's listening who hasn't tuned into this frequency before, let me say a couple of things about this net. We've been doing this for a few years. Generally speaking, we talk about all things digital on amateur radio. Sometimes we talk about all things radio, or sometimes we just talk about all things. So feel free to sit back, relax, grab a cold drink or a hot cup of coffee or whatever it is that you choose to enjoy your relaxation with. We'll be here for some casual conversation and hope that any of you listening are, comfortable enough to join in the conversation. And if there's anything you'd like to comment on or share with the rest of the group. We generally don't have any prepared agenda or items that we have to talk about, or what we talk about, when we talk about a structure. This net is kind of made up on the fly. It's intended to be casual and informative, and primarily a discussion amongst all of us, all of you. Something to say is welcome to say it. We'll be organized as a directed net. I'll be network net control, but don't let that get in the way. I mean, it's still meant to be a friendly process where everybody gets to talk to everybody. So for all the many of you that are listening on a regular basis, thank you for coming back from week to week. We're here every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. This is the 146.92 with a -600 offset and a PL tone of 110.9 for any of you that are, in a receive only mode and you need to adjust your transmitters to be able to join us. The only requirement for participating in this net and that is to have an amateur radio license of any class and a willingness to be friendly and share your ideas and thoughts and whatever you'd like to share. I heard Eric talking about weather a little bit ago, and Hal and excuse me, Scott talking about generators, and David talking about YouTube and some other things. And there's some conversation going on prior to the net that I think is actually good things we could talk about during the net. As a matter of fact, we could continue that conversation or any other conversations. And I did not come prepared with a net topic, so hopefully, as we'll be taking check-ins in a few minutes, perhaps some of you might have some topics that you'd like to discuss today, and we'll try to certainly include that in conversation. But it gave me an idea for a net topic, the conversation over the last 10-15 minutes, and I'd like to explore that just a little bit more. Hamnet. I think the first thing will probably let me just quickly mention the folks that are on following that already on NetLogger. We have them checked in already, and then after that we'll take some more check-ins, and we're going to go through the list kind of a round robin fashion and greet everyone. And I would like you to think about, between over the next couple of minutes until you get a chance to say hello. If there is a subject of yours, it doesn't matter what the subject is, but it's occurred to me that everybody knows something about something. Some people know a lot of things about something, and some people know a lot of things about a lot of things. So you narrow it down to, 1 or 2 or 3 things that you think you know a little something about that you wouldn't mind telling other people. And it doesn't matter to me if it's, how to cook pizza or what your favorite barbecue is or what kind of car you like to work on if you're a mechanic, or maybe you know something about cable TV and you'd like to explain a little bit about how that works. Or I'm not sure. It doesn't matter the subject, but what I would like to know is if there is a subject that you know a little something about, that you feel comfortable in your own mind, if someone were to ask you something about that you could give them an answer. And I'd just like you to think of that. What is a topic that you feel comfortable about? And as we're going, on our round robin and talking to folks, I would like you to share with the rest of the group your favorite things that you feel comfortable talking about. And maybe at some point we'll ask you to talk a little bit about that and maybe answer other people's questions about it. So be thinking about something that you wouldn't mind sharing with someone. Okay, of course on the top of the list there, thank you, Scott. Put me at the top. I'm K5WXR. My name is Lee. I'm in Highland Village, and I like to talk about lots of different things, almost everything. I'll have to think for a minute if I have a favorite. But yeah, my favorite is talking about nets, I guess. how they're run and what what we can do to make them more interesting to more people, or what we can do to how we can improve our radio skills and that sort of thing. But I have lots of other favorite topics. And then we have KG5RJR. KG5RJR, my friend Scott, is I like to think of as a partner in this net. He is doing a lot of things behind the scenes, like logging folks. He set up the net logger, for example, so that I get to read what he writes in there. And if there are any of you making comments in the AIM, the almost instant message screen, he keeps an eye on answers back sometimes, or brings whatever you might be writing up to the attention of the rest of the net. So thank you very much, Scott, for that. We have KG5OIV. Of course, that would be, I think that's Dennis and Denton. I'm saying that off the top of my, there it is. I've read it, actually. So not that I need that. Dennis, thank you very much for being on this net. You've been doing this for a long time now, and we appreciate having you here. N5VPR. Now, let me tell you a little bit about N5VPR. We'll ask him to tell you a little bit in just a minute, but N5VPR is actually who set up. His name is Randy. He sets up the webpage, the digitallyspeakingnet.net. So everything that you're reading and seeing on there is his handiwork, and of course he and I share ideas and whatnot. But I just want to recognize and let everybody know that Randy has gone to a lot of effort to put up a webpage and try to keep it current and all that. And I want everybody to know that that we all want to thank you, Randy. Thank you very much for doing that. KG5UBB, that's Uniform Bravo Bravo, David. David has set up a YouTube audio channel or live streaming channel, so that this net is actually currently being broadcast on YouTube, as well as on like Broadcastify and Radio Reference, and of course over the CARA, the Denton County Amateur Radio Association repeaters here in I say here. The transmitter is actually in Denton, but I'm in Highland Village, but it's all Denton County. AG5GV. I've always always great good videos, I guess. Always great five good videos, probably more than that. And I know that Eric is into lots of things, including weather and satellites and a lot of other things, and talks about that a lot on that. Thank you very much for that. But there may be some hidden talent there that we don't know about. KC5LL. Laird is a valuable contributor to this net, not only just the name, digitally speaking, but there's a wealth of knowledge behind that name, Laird, in Lake Dallas. I've heard him referred to as Mr. Lake Dallas even. But anyway, thank you for participating, Laird. And tell you what, if there's anyone else that would like to actually check in now, we'll take check-ins. If I haven't mentioned your name yet or your call sign yet, please feel free to bring it now. And if you could do it slowly and phonetically, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Kilo, Charlie, 5, Alpha, Mike, Tango, Kelly. I'll be in and out this afternoon, but just wanted to let you know I'll be listening. KC5AMT.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. That's a perfect demonstration of the speed and clarity and whatnot. So I appreciate it. Anyone else, please come down with your call signs slowly and phonetically.
Whiskey Echo 5 Tango Romeo, Todd and Capel.
Todd, thank you very much, Todd. Welcome to this net, and let me say that if anyone, if folks want to check in, you can. I'll leave a little bit of time here, and you could come, 3, 4, or 5 at a time, and I'll read them all at once. So thank you.
Hamnet.
Okay, I have another idea. Excuse me for giggling. I think that perhaps I may have scared a few folks away by making it sound like you're going to be forced to say something, and maybe you don't want to say anything. And that's fine. I don't want to twist anyone's arm or put them on the spot or chase them away because perhaps they're not ready to actually tell something about themselves. So. We'll do check-ins periodically, as we go. And also, please know that if we're on a subject that we're discussing and you have a comment or something you'd like to ask, or perhaps you have an answer to a question that somebody asks, it's fine if you have not checked in, by the way. You're welcome to participate at any time, even without checking in. So anyway, we're just glad that you're here. And one reason that we ask for check-ins is just so that we have an idea of who's in the audience and that we can gear our conversation towards the widest number of interests. So if you happen to be brand new to amateur radio, we welcome that, and we'll all try to keep in mind that in our conversation that we have people that are new to ham radio so that we will explain what we're talking about as we go along. On the other hand, if you have highly technical things and you've been doing this for many years and you have a question that you'd like to bring up, we'll try to talk at whatever level you want us to talk about. So whether you're very experienced or very inexperienced, everyone is welcome. Okay, so with KC5, excuse me, I'm reading Kelly's again. KE5 Tango Romeo and KE5 BCP. We'll try to gather or talk to everybody more as we go along, but let's start somewhere near the top. Perhaps I know that Scott was talking about generators earlier today. I don't know if you want to include that in a subject you know about, Scott, but let's hear what you'd like to share with the group or say hello, or if you have something on your mind you'd like to add to our agenda to talk about today. Scott?
Thank you, Lee. Been a couple weeks since I've gotten a chance to check in on Sundays. We've had other things going on. What am I an expert at? I don't know. I've got so many things that I like to do and so many different directions. I dabble a bit in computers. I absolutely love to build antennas and like helping others with their antennas. I'm open to anything and everything lately. Now, generators, one second here. Lee, you got me started on a conversation about a year ago about what we would do in an emergency situation if I had no power. And that spurred me to go out and get a couple of generators. And while we were cleaning the garage today, we opened up the garage and pulled out the generators. And one of them fired real well. The other one is going to require a little maintenance. But that's kind of what we were talking about generators the other day, because we are at that time of year where potentially they could get used. And that was my little endeavor with generators this morning. But lately this week, this week and last week has all been about putting a hex beam on top of a pergola. And for those of you that want to see it, it's over on my QRZ page. Little on the dark side the picture is, but that is sitting at 16 feet now as opposed to 4. But that's been my last couple of weeks. How's yours, KG5RJR?
Thank you very much, Scott. And how's mine? It's had its ups and downs. Oh boy. I'll explain mine actually in a little while, but right now I'm more interested anyway to hear from all of you. And by the way, it doesn't. My question about what your interest is or what you're interested to talk about doesn't necessarily mean that you're an expert on it. It could be something that you always wanted to know about, or something that you are currently researching to find out more about it, and but you don't mind talking about what you don't know about it. It's just I'm looking for favorite subjects that you're comfortable talking about, and you don't have to be, teaching somebody else about it. You can be asking about it, or just, just the subject, I guess, is what I'm interested in. So, and then hopefully we can, at some point in the future, or future nets, or even later today, address some of those kinds of topics, and kind of, I guess I'm trying to develop maybe a group of people that wouldn't mind spending 5 or 10 minutes or more, on a net, talking about their favorite subject. But just because you mention it today doesn't mean that you're committing to do a net or anything. I'm just curious about the topic. So I think maybe we all are curious about what each other are interested in, and then we can all kind of, gear our conversations at different times towards that. So anyway, that's the goal and why I thought of it. But anyway, in 5 VPR, Brandy, is your voice getting any better, or are you in a spot would you like to share some information? Please go right ahead.
Hi, Lee. Afternoon, everybody. In 5 VPR, voice is gradually getting better, but like so many of us in this part of North Texas, the allergies continue to plague us all. So the voice kind of fades out every now and then, kind of like me. But I'll be around. As far as interests, I really like the digital modes. I'm a computer nerd, sitting here at the command post today with the laptop running FL-Digi just in case you head that direction, and taking its feed off of David's YouTube feed. I've got the digital recording running on one of the primary computers here with displays of NetLogger. Also taking a look at Scott's neat antenna farm, especially the big cobweb antenna. Really looks neat. So I'll just be hanging out and anxious to learn. In 5 VPR, back to you, Lee, in the net.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you very much. Not only for all the things that you do with digitally speaking, but thanks for sharing that just now as well. And let me comment too, just about FL Digi. I've probably mentioned it a couple of times. You probably hear me mention it again, but we've on this net, just for everyone. We have talked about several different operating modes under FL Digi. Not only how to download it and install it, and actually just get on the air with it, but with like MT63 and some other modes. But one of the modes, FSQ, Fast Simple Query, is something that I personally kind of enjoy, and I don't do nearly as much of with it that I would like to, and I'm hoping, over the next few weeks anyway, to just me personally get a little more into it and set up some things in it and maybe have it up a lot more. But I think over the next few weeks we might talk about that a little bit more, so that everybody knows. And not today though. I didn't get a chance to play with that at all this week, but I'm interested if anyone else is interested. I need to apologize to Dennis. Dennis was actually should have gone next. KG5OIV. I'm sorry I skipped, bud. I sometimes get a little dyslexic vertically as well as horizontally, and that was what happened. But Dennis, how are you today? And what's new in your neck of the woods? Any new projects you got going?
Hello, Lee. Hello, everyone out there. It's okay for you to have skipped me. I was busy helping my wife bring in some groceries and having a little chat with her from her shopping experiences, but everything's okay. I'm available now and on the radio. Let me take a little pause for a second. Okay. Well, I attended the rookie roundup last weekend for a shortwave on 20 meters. We did a little bit of SSB work, and we got a few contacts. It was nice to meet a few of the fellow co-op members for the first time. Very impressed with the work that we did and what we learned how to do and the knowledge we were able to share. But other than that, I'm just sitting back and listening, and later on today, I'm going to try to compile a kernel for a wireless driver. But other than that, not doing too much. This is KG5OIV. Back to net.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I jotted two things. One of them I don't understand. The other one I think I have a little experience with. But I'm going to call you a grocery sorter outer, or maybe unloader or unpacker, or do you have a favorite way to put it in your cupboards? If we ever want some advice on good ways to organize your kitchen, and wireless driver compilation. I've not known of anyone to talk about that yet. That would be a new one for this net. Anyway, is that something you'd like to explain a little later on?
Well, I'm by no means an expert, but I've been digging around trying to figure out how to do it myself, and I'm about ready to take the plunge. My intention is trying to get an Ethereum chip for the wireless card to actually operate on a ham-only band. So I'm going to try. It takes a lot of configuration, and wish me luck. KG5OIV.
Good luck. Good luck. They do wish that, and also, if you don't mind, I'd kind of like a follow-up status report on that from time to time. And by the way, even if it's not successful, if you run into difficulties or things that that don't work, in my mind, anything that any of us ever experiment with, if the experiment is a failure, that's a success. In other words, you know what doesn't work, or you know some ways that you would not try again, or some things that perhaps other people might have been thinking about doing, but now they may think in a little bit different ways. So anyway, there's something to be gained from experiments that do not, in other words, every experiment is a success in some way. Sometimes you learn stuff that doesn't work. So anyway, thank you for that. What did I do to my screen? I think that David was next, and UBB, KG5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. David, welcome back again to the net. And do you have some favorite subjects besides YouTube streaming, or if you would like to mention something about YouTube streaming, please feel free. It's your net for the next couple minutes. Feel free to talk about anything you like. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Does that mean that needs to be a Unix or a Linux type kernel or virtual machine that you're running? Thank you very much for that advice. It sounds like very good advice, and maybe a little bit later after the check-ins and greetings from everyone. Maybe we might be able to come back to that a little bit, talk about it more. But I, for one, appreciate that. I'm sure that Dennis does, and maybe all of us do. But at this moment, let's go to AG5 Golf Victor to, great videos, I guess. Great virtual, I don't know. I shouldn't joke about your call signs, they're very personal to all of us. I mean, it's part of our name, it's part of who we are. And I like to, many of us in amateur radio think of various mnemonics to help us remember people's call signs. But I hope that if I ever do that and blurt out your call sign and I use something that you don't like as a mnemonic, please let me know. I never want to offend anyone about their things. I'm never making fun of anyone, but sometimes I think of some call signs that maybe the guy doesn't appreciate. So anyway, like my friend Jim, W5PCN, we call him Tin Can Noise, but he's the Tin Can Noise might sound offensive, but he's who came up with that. So I'm not afraid to say that. So. But if I said it, I would think that he may be offended. So I would, you know what I mean? He created it himself, so I guess it's okay for the rest of us to use it. But this is Eric's window of opportunity to share your fields of interest. I appreciate some of them, by the way, or maybe all of them. But I know that weather and satellites and the different layers of the atmosphere and stuff is one of the things that you pay a lot of attention to. And I appreciate it when you talk about those things. But anything you'd like to share with the group right now in your areas of interest of what they are, not so much sharing the actual subject, but well, you know what I mean. What is the topic that we could come back to you to ask you questions in the future? Go ahead, Eric.
Hamnet.
Appreciate that, Lee. I had to let the repeater identify itself on Morse code there. The RTL SDR, you can also find it. If you can't find it that way, just type in Air Spy. That's Air Spy, and you'll be able to find it there. It'll link up to the RTL SDR software. Me personally, I don't know. I kind of really enjoy building antennas. I love space weather. I love talking on satellites. I don't have all the fancy equipment that they had at Field Day, but that's my next project because, like I said, I really enjoy building antennas, and I need to build a decent satellite antenna. I do pretty good talking off my copper cactus J pole. Does quite well for me, and I'm quite surprised today about the band conditions because. My math and calculations said that the band conditions were going to be open tomorrow, but right now 10 meters is open all the way up into Poland. So if you're a technician and you enjoy digital modes, well, 10 meters is open right now. And let me break. 6 meters is open. I guess all the bands are open because usually if 10's open, all of them are open. But thought I'd pitch that out there. Hopefully we'll keep the people that are on and they won't leave and start hitting the bands, but just let everybody know they are open. And just recently had back surgery, so I'm recovering from that. I'm doing quite well, walking around a lot better. There's some things that I can't do yet. I can't bend, side to side a whole lot. And my weekend ham radio did a little bit of digital stuff. I finally got my APRS working, thanks to Hal, so I appreciate that. KC5HAL, if you're listening, thank you. So got that up and running. And I also like to do things that people say that can't be done, so if they say there's no way that you can run a voice over IP phone on Arden node, well, guess what? I'm going to try to figure out a way to make it work. So that's just me and how I work. Back to you, AG5GB.
Eric, thank you for that. I know that you have lots of areas of interest, and that's fantastic. That last one really perked up my ears, though. Did somebody tell you that you can't run voice over Arden?
Yeah, and I was going to continue on because I got an email. It was quite pleasant this time, actually. Actually had two emails. One was not saying that you can't, but they said it was what was the word? It wasn't impossible. Hold on, let me pull up my email. Give me just a second.
Well, after the check-ins, I don't know how long we have you on the net. If you have to, leave to go to work or anything, but this is something I definitely would like to talk more about at some point today, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have to go to work. Like I said, I'm recovering from back surgery. So one of the emails was, real quick, how do you know so much about propagation and when specifically the bands are going to be open?
And to answer that real quick, no, I'll wait. I'll wait until you tell me that's okay. And then on the Arden node, another email was, I don't know that we can run voice over IP on Arden. It seems kind of impossible to do, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I replied to that email. Actually, you can run voice over IP. I don't mean to get into Arden. I really don't. But my main thing right now today is propagation. And like I said, I'm amazed that Mother Nature has allowed propagation. So all the bands are open right now. And I have some space weather stuff to talk about later on too, if you want to. So I'm here. I'm not going to work. I'm out with, due to back surgery. So back to you, my friend. AG5GB.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Just another little quick announcement for everybody's information is that this net was originally formed a few years ago, specifically for what was known at the time broadband hamnet, basically what Arden is today. Arden is the more advanced version of it, but AREDN, the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, uses a TCP/IP and a bunch of other stuff, and we'll talk more about that. But we kind of spread this net out to lots of different things. But just to make it clear that is our foundation, I would have to say probably the primary. If we were to list all the different things that we talk about or would like to talk about, that's got to be somewhere near the top of the list. So I definitely would like to come back to that subject, in a little bit. So. Anyway, let's move right along for now. Laird is the next one on our list, KC5LL Laird in Lake Dallas, and I know that he is interested in lots of different things, like and runs on like a WiresX node, and I'd even call him an expert on how to dig a hole for the base of your tower. I don't know if I'd say that in humor or in jest, but. Most of us that know Laird and have heard him talk about lately, he's been installing a fantastic tower, and he's probably getting it finalized. But I happen to know that he's busy today. He's monitoring the net, and he's likely not able to transmit or talk on the net today because of what he's got going. But I want to give a few seconds of airspace here just to ensure that he hasn't made his way over to the radio by now, and maybe he could talk to us for a few minutes, but let me just ask, KC5LL Laird, are you available?
Hey, good afternoon, Lee. Yeah, I'm doing about 10 things today. I had a surprise visit Friday that lasted till this morning, and those folks just left, so I'm kind of trying to catch up on some stuff. But, I don't know that I'm an expert in anything. I'm not very smart. I do know, though, that I need to get smarter about computers. I listened to this young man, the KG5 UBB or UBC, and went, wow. I said, I'm way behind. I am way behind if a young man like that has got that kind of stuff rolling around. So I just need to get smarter, and I listen to y'all just to try to do that. So thanks, Lee. I got some stuff here I'm trying to get done. I do appreciate all the kind remarks, Lee. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll have you on here. I'll be listening on one ear, okay? KC5LL back to net control.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. I didn't just invent kind words, by the way. Everything I say, most of you that know me know that I'm a blabbermouth, and whatever I think I say, I don't filter a lot of things or try to figure out the best way to say something to produce compliments or insults or anything like that. So if you're ever offended by something I say, I apologize in advance. And if you think I'm just blowing smoke or something like that, please know that that's just me and my personality, that I generally say what I think without thinking about it too much. I'm not sure if that's a good trait to have or a bad trait to have. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but hey, it's the way I am, and I don't try to change. So hopefully, but what is, I don't want to say any of those expressions. Never mind. anyway, apologies in advance. Let's go to KC5AMT. Kelly, you sounded like you might have been in a rush before. I hope I didn't take too long to get to you. But I want to thank you for your perfect demonstration of the right speed to say your call sign on the net. So, Kelly, are you still with us? KC5AMT, Kelly?
Hamnet, Hamnet.
Kelly, if you're listening and you can't get to the radio, please know that you're welcome to come back and rejoin us at any time when you are ready to get to the radio and you hear and you can. I mean, when you are back at your radio, or this goes for really anyone who's listening. If you hear a gap in the conversation, I'm trying to, and I think we all are. Some of you are more polite than others, but the polite thing to do on radio always is to leave a gap big enough that someone else can jump in and leave their at least get their call sign out, so that we know that you need to say something. And if you have an emergency, if you use the word break or break, we kind of in ham radio that's kind of an emergency sign, and we will stop what we're doing to make the repeater available for you. But anytime that we're talking, we like to talk for a minute or 2 minutes or whatever, and release the button so that the repeater doesn't time out. And when we do that, and in between conversations with different people, we should leave a few seconds of airspace so that somebody can jump in if they need to. And the appropriate thing to jump into is your call sign. And just from my personal experience, if I hear any piece of a call sign, I will stop and allow time. Okay, so Kelly, whenever you're ready to come back, feel free to just jump in with your call sign. Let's go to WE5TR, Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo. This is Todd, I believe, in Capel. Welcome to the net, and hopefully you've stayed with us through all of this, and you'd like to say hello to the group, and if you want to share a little something about yourself or projects you're working on, or maybe you've got questions you'd like to ask other folks, whatever you'd like to share with the group, come now, please.
Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, and as far as hobbies, certainly no ham expertise yet. I'm playing with a lot of different things and getting ready to try and put up a HOA-friendly DX antenna. And then for hobbies, though, I weld and I do a bunch of other computer-type stuff, so it's all coming together, and that my wife and I were able to finally finish my inside ham shack with a shelf we built. Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, back to net.
5 RJR. 55 RJR. Scott, go ahead.
Todd spoke real quick there about an HOA-friendly antenna. I think that is a really good topic for a lot of folks. Lee, I know you and I have seen a couple that are in the 2 meter and 70 centimeter range, but one that I recently ran across was a Hustler 6BTV that was run up the center of a fiberglass flagpole. They also still had it tilt mounted, but I will say I have a 6BTV here in the backyard. Absolutely love it, and if you can find a way to put that inside fiberglass, I've heard of a few folks doing that, and it actually does work fairly well. KG5RJR.
Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo.
WE5 Tango Romeo, go ahead, please. Oh, by the way, thank you very much for sharing that. I was making some notes, so please go ahead.
Like Scott's idea, that was actually my first plan, and I went so far as to get HOA approval. They threw a curveball at me, though, and that they approved a silent halyard flagpole, and I would have to be flying a flag a certain number of days, etc. So the silent halyard, the only way I've found to do that is by putting the halyard inside. So my approach may be to camouflage paint a Hustler and have it up next to a tree. The folks at DXE have told me that that would not significantly affect the SWR. Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, back to net.
Well, thank you. Stealth antennas, over time we've talked a lot about them and heard of different views on and a lot of the problems that people have had with HOAs and whatnot. But I think it's a good time probably that we should, spend a little bit more time talking about that here in the near future, maybe a little bit later even today. I want to recognize that KF5OMH, by the way, has joined us on the net. So thank you, Ron, for being here. Let me, but Todd, have the antennas that you were talking about putting inside of a flagpole and flying a flag a certain number of days a week. I'd like to hear, is anyone on the net right now today using a flagpole antenna? I know there are a couple of different ones out there that are commercially available that have antennas already built in them, and that I'm not sure about how well they fly flags and that sort of thing, and if flying a flag affects the performance of your antenna any. But is there anyone on the net today currently using a flagpole antenna? Thanks. Anyway, I know someone who has recently installed one, but I don't remember what brand it was or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that he did not build it. I'm pretty sure he bought a flagpole antenna and had it installed. But I'll contact him off the air at some point, and maybe we can get him here next week or sometime to talk about it a little bit. But thank you, Todd, for that. Appreciate it. Was there anything else that you'd like to comment on or share at this time before we go to Ron? Todd?
I just share the silent halyard. If somebody's filing for one of their HOA, maybe you can write it up in such a way as to avoid them coming back at you with that. There is a company, 05 Antennas, who the guy was great by email, but when I got to the silent halyard part, he bowed out and said he couldn't figure out a way to do a silent halyard without having it mess with the resonance of the antenna. And Scott has posted a link on the AIM window, so I'm looking at that too. Thank you all for your input. Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, back to net.
Thank you very much. But one more question before we move on. What band are you expecting your silent antenna to cover?
Hypothetically, I've already got 2 meters and 70 centimeters covered with a stealth antenna, so this one hopefully will go the HF bands. I'm eyeballing the 6B TV like Scott has, and so that would give me, if I remember correctly, 40 up to 10. Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, back to net.
Okay, thank you very much. That was, if we all know what you're shooting for, it kind of helps us mold over in our minds what kinds of things we might suggest or recommend. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. let's go to Ron, KF5OMH. Ron, I know you checked in on NetLogger. Welcome to the net. I don't know how much of this you've listened to before we got to here, but basically we're asking if there's a particular areas of interest that you have. But if you have knowledge or information on something, doesn't have to be radio, by the way, anything that might be a favorite topic for you. I mean, I just happen to know that maybe it's airlines, maybe it's fire department, maybe it's something else. How to make pizza. Anything that you have that you feel comfortable sharing with other folks. Do you have favorite topics that you like to talk about? Ron, to you.
Well, good afternoon, Lee, and everyone else out there on the net. I don't know how to make pizza very well. I can't do it from scratch, but I live with a young lady that could. Favorite topics? Wow, yeah, I can talk fire department. Been involved with fire departments for, 45 years, I think. Airlines for 50 years. So I guess I could talk about them, but they're probably not very interesting to most people. I was late getting on this afternoon. I was watching a soccer match from England and fell asleep in the recliner. So I missed the start of the net, but I always like to listen just to see what's going on. I really don't have any particular thing I'd like to talk about today, but you never know when you might pick something up that'd get interesting. So back to you, Lee, KF5OMH.
Thank you very much, Ron. But I just again, let me share with the entire audience that I'm. By the way, my name is Lee. I am K5WXR. I'm in Highland Village. This is the Digitally Speaking Hamnet. We're here every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. So, and we're on 146.92, which is the Decorah-Denton County Amateur Radio Association's primary repeater and 2-meter repeater that is in. It's located at a really nice spot in Denton, and we have an extensive voter system around the county where there's a lot of remote receivers. So it's a wide coverage repeater, and you have a pretty good chance of getting into it and being able to use it with almost any radio that you might have. So and it covers all the adjacent counties. I need to make it clear that this net is not specifically for Decorah. It's for, or even for Denton County. It's for anyone interested in radio or digital radio especially, but anything radio or just anything at all. We have check-ins from all of the surrounding counties, like Collin County, Tarrant County, and Wise County at different times, and Dallas, of course, and north. We've had Gainesville. We've had folks from Oklahoma even able to get into this repeater. So, and then on Broadcastify and over the internet and Radio Reference and those kinds of sources, we have had some check-ins as far away as Ohio and other states. So, just want to make it clear that everyone, no matter who you are or where you are, is invited to participate in this discussion group. We hope that it is a discussion group, not so much a monologue by me or anybody, but interactive between all of you. So feel free to contribute anything that you'd like to talk about, and also if you have feel like you might want to answer somebody's question, or you have a question yourself that you'd like to ask, or just a comment overall you'd like to make. Don't think that we have to be on that subject. You can change the subject at any time. And anyway, I just felt compelled to repeat that periodically. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are some of you out there that have been listening that have not checked in, or that have not, got onto NetLogger or someplace and checked in silently. Would you like to come now and share your call sign phonetically and slowly.
This is Whiskey Zulu 5, Tango Mike Tim in Louisville, Texas.
hours, 0 minutes, 62 degrees.
Tim, welcome to the net. Nice to hear you up and about, and a little enough energy in your voice to talk. Appreciate your net last night. Sorry I had to bail out while other people were talking. I didn't get a chance to say I was leaving, but I always enjoy your nets on Saturday night, and I'm glad to have you here today. I know you're versed in stealth antennas, and maybe not homeowner association approved, but we're. How long have you been listening? Have you heard pretty much the rest of the net, or would you like me to explain what we're talking about?
I don't know how long I've been listening, maybe 15 minutes or so. I pretty much got what's going on. The only thing I would have to say right now is that I'm looking for Laird KC5LL, I think it is, to give me a voice call. I need to talk to him about Tuesday night. Other than that, I'm just kind of carrying on. WZ5PM back to net.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully Laird, I know he's listening and participating in the net while he's busy with other activities, so hopefully he caught that and will be calling you. If I may, would you mind if I talked a little bit about your antenna system, Tim?
Go ahead, talk all you want.
You know, if we're running stealth antennas, several reasons to have stealth antennas, or antennas that people don't know about or don't see or are not obvious to the general public. You know, whether we talk about them or not, that sort of announces that they're there to the general public for anybody who may be listening to this. So I know Tim has talked about his antenna system a number of times, so you know I feel comfortable talking about it. But for those of you that may be listening that are running stealth antennas and that maybe other people don't know or haven't discovered yet, and maybe you don't want them to discover it, and you don't feel comfortable talking about your antennas, that's fine. You know, I don't want to pressure anyone to describe what they've got if they aren't comfortable publicizing it. But my friend Tim lives in an apartment, and he's actually using the gutter system of the apartment for an antenna. So I think it's very clever. I think it's a fantastic idea, and it works for not everything that you might want to work for, but it works for some digital modes and things that allows him to have a significant communication over a wide area without the ability to actually put up an outside antenna. So that's a thought.
Hamnet.
Well, one of the topics that came up today is something I'd like to explore. Actually, there's a couple more things. We're covered our first hour, I guess. We're in an hour and 5 minutes or whatever of this net. I promised a couple of you that we would not go on too long today. I've got to kind of bail out, and I know that several others of you do. I was hoping that it would be a little bit of a shorter net today. Sometimes, we've been known to go for several hours. I'd like to sort of, generally speaking, I never want to shut down good conversation, or if anyone has questions that they need to have answered, I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. And if there's topics that we really need to cover, we should cover them no matter how long it takes, is my personal philosophy.
E5UBB.
Hey, E5UBB, please, go ahead, David.
Hello, Lee. I just thought I would bring in the fact for these stealth antennas that I'm a large proponent in operating mobile. Might not be the best idea for an HF base station, but thought I would throw the idea out there. I know there's lots of apps for Android tablets to where you can receive and transmit sometimes, let's say remotely, or interface with your radio through USB. But I just thought I'd throw out the idea of operating mobile or portable, QRP possibly, for certain people that are wanting a stealth antenna.
David, thank you. That's an excellent idea. There's several things running through my mind. Would you like to explain or expand on that just a little bit? Are you talking about having a radio in your vehicle, but you operate it remotely through your phone or your tablet or something like that?
I'm not an expert on this. I just thought I would bring it up in case someone was. But lots of the stuff I've seen, you can interface a software-defined radio with your tablet. So let's say you're out there doing QRP. You can operate digital mode. In fact, that's one of my projects. I'm working on a computer interface for mobile devices, so it's pretty small and easy to power, over 5 volts, hopefully. And that way you can work digital on the go, or if you want to do shortwave listening, I've used my software-defined radio and a large amount of wire hooked up as an antenna just over here on the lake where I'm situated now. And I've used the long wire to pick up airplane ADSB and listen to some shortwave stations as well. And for transmitting, I don't have a general class license yet, but I'm planning on upgrading next weekend if all goes well. And yeah, I just thought I'd throw out the idea of operating QRP. Sorry about the interruption there. My radio thought I should stop transmitting, but yeah, that was my idea. Just thought I'd throw it out there for the net, and back to net. KG5UBB, back to net.
David, thank you. By the way, thank you very much for the idea. I'm sure you're aware of synergy. When you suggest something, other people hear it, it makes them think of something, and they suggest something, and then that combination of things, someone else might hear and something, and then they think of something in their mind that was triggered because of what the previous people said. And based on what you have said, I just thought of some things that I probably would not have thought of before. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to share a couple of those thoughts right now. And there may be some of you that are doing this, but if you are, so far there's, to my knowledge, no one has talked over the last 3 or 4 years on what I'm about to say. So this may be a new thing. Either people are not doing it or they're not talking about it. But let me reset. there are a number of manufacturers of amateur radio equipment that make radios specifically to talk to other radios and control other radios. For example, there's I don't remember the model numbers, but there's a Kenwood base station, for example, that is and they have some brand name communication method that, and I think that all the manufacturers, whether Yaesu or ICOM or whatever, have similar situations. But it was the Kenwood brochure that advertisement that triggered that I'm remembering right now. I don't have this, I've never done it, but I imagine a lot of people do. And that is that they make a handheld radio that is specifically made to be compatible with their base station radio, and that there's a communication link between the two of them so that they can use their handheld to remotely operate the base station. And if you happen to have that type of a setup, there's no reason that even in an HOA region or whatever, you could have your transmitter located somewhere else. I don't know how far the separation could be, but it's possible perhaps you could buddy up with someone else who has this kind of a setup and you have the remote controllability to it, that if you know someone who is in a non-restricted area that has a nice antenna farm, and you are in a restricted area, that you could use one of these remote control features to operate a friend's radio, perhaps. Or perhaps you have a radio in your vehicle that has significant more range or antenna availability or whatever than what you have. If it's on your vehicle and your vehicle's not parked in your street all the time or whatever, there's maybe HOA restrictions about where you can park such things and whatnot. But if you can operate your vehicle radio without you being in it, and you can operate it with a remote device from inside your house or wherever your radio station is, it seems to me that you could use that sort of like crossband repeating, but it doesn't have to be a crossband. You're actually operating your main radio. There's probably a lot of techniques. Well, thank you, honey. My darling wife just brought me some raisin bread, hot and buttered and whatnot, because she knows that I haven't eaten anything today. And I've had coffee, but let me reset the timer. I know that we've talked about Echolink and IRLP and WiresX and a variety of different ways of remote, using the internet or using telephones or cell phone, smartphones, and other things to talk, over radio repeaters and things like that. But what I would like to know more specifically is if there's anyone on the net today that is using one radio to actually control one of their other radios, and if so, would you mind telling us a little bit about it and how it works and how far apart you can be? And is this brainstorming here really a way that maybe we can get around some of the HOA restrictions? Is anyone doing that? Please come with your call sign. Okay, well, hopefully, the activity on this net has now sparked some ideas that some of you might have your wheels spinning and thinking about. Maybe you could go out and experiment with a little bit, and come back in the near future and kind of let us know how some of that worked, if it's something that you're interested in. So anyway, I want to thank you again, David, for that.
Hamnet.
5 RJR. KG5 RJR. Go ahead, please.
Point out a topic of conversation that several of us have got into in the instant messenger window, and this is one that probably is something that you chased just recently, Lee, is one of the members is having some issue chasing down some noises in his shack that possibly could be related from computer gear. What have you got for us on that, Lee, KG5RJR?
Oh, I think the big noise with a capital N. I should have put that as one of the favorite topics to talk about. And the subject of noise could branch out into, we could do whole nets, I suppose, on noise. One of the things I brought up on another net recently was how to describe noise and the type of noise that you're getting. How do you describe it to someone else, what they sound like? And there's so many different things. The one recently that came up with that I noticed that was talking about a woodpecker sound or a motorboat sound or a woodpecker on steroids or a background fluttering. To me, I was going to say, although other people described it already, so I didn't need to say this, but I was going to call it a fluttering kind of a noise like a kid with baseball cards in the spokes and driving slowly and steadily. So it was a pop, 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 kind of a noise in the background. And now I've heard that from several other folks. I hear in their transmission that same noise. So, and we have identified some things that might cause that. But just the whole subject of how to describe and what type of noise, that's a whole. We could use that as a whole NEP talk one day. But I guess I could replay a recording and see if I hear any noise in Laird's signal. If there's some noise specifically that he would like us to talk about. But when I heard that word noise, I flashed in my mind a bunch of things, and now I probably lost track of what you actually said, Scott. Would you mind telling me again what was your what did you want me to expand on? Oh, computer noise. I remember now. But go ahead, Scott. You want to talk about the noise within your shack, noise generated by a computer that you're picking up in your radio? Is that pretty much it?
I'm going to go ahead and state who it was. It's N5VPR. He was talking about some computer noise in his shack. And I know that you were recently chasing some of those gremlins down in your own shack. So I figured I'd go ahead and state something that we're discussing that a little bit in the instant messenger window. So let's go ahead and bring it out as a topic to continue discussion on here on the radio, KG5RJR.
Thank you very much for the refinement. Let me pause for a couple of seconds in case someone else would like to contribute before I start talking.
G5UBB comment.
G5UBB comment. Go ahead.
Thought I'd throw out lots of computers use sine waves and essentially low-scale RF in their circuitry. For example, Ethernet can cause a lot of noise on HF if you have Ethernet cable. So I would recommend just grounding everything and possibly isolating all transformers noise-wise. But that's more of an audio issue. And if you got a more high-performance computer with a graphics card of some sort, those usually have quite a lot of inductors that can leak RF. So possibly just move that slightly away and potentially reroute any Ethernet cables or put some ferrite chokes around the Ethernet cables. I'm no expert, but that's just what I know from reading around on forums and thought I'd try to help out for that topic. KG5UBB, back to net.
Thank you, David. Thank you. I do have, as Scott said, I have had some personal experience with a similar situation, but I also want to give everyone else a chance that may want to comment or share if they've had similar experiences, and also perhaps a refinement of the type of noise. But I'm going to describe my issue here in just a minute, but I'd like others to go first if they may. And by the way, David, you have made some suggestions I was going to suggest, by the way, so thank you for that. Anyone else want to comment on noise experience or noise mitigation? I heard a station that sounded like they were about to throw out their call sign, and I caught that this is, but I did not hear them come back with a call sign. If that was you, would you please come back with your call sign?
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November. Larry, in we call that Fort Worth? I'm not looking at the chart right now. I'm doing this out of memory. Familiar voice, familiar guy, familiar call sign. But I got to tell you, you're very weak, and it's a little bit difficult to pick up what you're saying. But please, if you've got a comment or something, we're going to all listen carefully.
James down here in Fort Worth, I've got one frequency here in town. I don't know if it's the computer or DSL, satellite, or TV that messes up 145, 140. I have to try to turn things off to check to see which one's doing it.
Okay, thank you. For anyone who maybe wasn't able to pick up what Larry said, I'm going to try to repeat it. And that is that he has a noise issue on one particular frequency. I think he gave the frequency. And it might be whatever. And by the way, that was an issue that I was having. And I have a friend who was tried to be in this net last week. Maybe listening today or not, I'm not sure. I know he's under the weather lately, but who has a similar issue on this particular frequency, the 146.92, and he has trouble receiving this frequency only, and radio is set up, his operation works on other frequencies just fine. So I guess what I'm going to say, I have experienced this a number of places too, and what my suspicion is, maybe some of this might be what there's several different things. I want to say about 3 or 4 different things, and I need to talk about them separately.
Hamnet.
A couple of months ago, we were doing some tests, and I'll share. It was actually the Medical Reserve Corps. It was the radio operators that, for those of us that volunteer for Medical Reserve Corps, we were doing some random experiments at various sites and whatnot, and something we do on a regular basis. And it turned out that one of the locations where we were working out of at Geyer High School, where we were doing some tests, within about 100 yards of that school in any direction, that you cannot transmit or receive anyway on 146.92, and it was isolated to that particular frequency. There's something going on at this that's generated in the school that jams that particular frequency out to, if you get outside of the parking lot and out, on the main streets around it, then it's fine. But if you're within a close proximity to the school, you can't turn your squelch up high enough to squelch out the background noise. Or maybe you can get it if you turn it all the way up. It might work depending on where you are. But the point is, there's noise generated on one specific frequency, but it's very localized. And I can tell you some other locations and which frequencies they affect. For example, the 121 at where 544, just before you go over the bridge or the railroad tracks, whatever, down in towards the colony, between the colony and Lewis. That technically Louisville, but the road between the colony and Louisville, there's a gas station that something around that gas station or in the power lines near there or right around that intersection, within 100 yards or so, a couple hundred yards of that intersection, it jams the 145.17 repeater. So the reception from it gives you real loud background static when you're there. And that happens various other times. I can tell you at various storage centers when the gates open, certain frequencies get affected by the motors in their gate openers, or maybe it's in their remote transmitters to operate the gates. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of different things that are kind of fluky and localized to one particular frequency. I was going to continue, but it sounded like I was starting to double with somebody. Let me ask, is there someone else who's trying to contact me right now? Okay, not hearing anyone, I'll continue. But I think we're talking primarily computer-generated noise within your shack, and let me focus on that for the next couple minutes. Well, somebody definitely keyed the repeater, but I didn't get any transmission. It was only just for a moment. I don't know if it was a kerchunk or if it was somebody actually trying to transmit, but if you're the station trying to transmit, please be advised you're not making it into the repeater solidly enough to hold the repeater up. So I'm going to pause another 5 seconds here just in case you have relocated or increased your power.
It actually sounds like somebody's sending packets, I don't know, sounds like packets rather than somebody kerchunking or voice, maybe ABRS. Back to you, AG5GB.
RJR, I also heard APRS beaconing. It's interesting. Another situation where we try to describe noise. To me, it sounded like somebody sitting on their microphone with a little bit of movement, a little bit of air noise or whatever, and like somebody's pushing a push to talk but not speaking. Maybe breathing.
That was me, KG5UBB. Just realized my HT was hung up on my backpack. Really sorry about that. Did not mean to do it. KG5UBB.
David, I want to actually thank you very much. Two things. One is thank you for admitting that it was you or bringing it to our attention, so now we know we don't have to wonder. The other thing is it gave a great example of the differences of noise. There's still what sounds like a APRS beacon or APRS chirp that perhaps somebody has their APRS going on the wrong frequency. And that happens. You know, myself, I've got a dual band radio. APRS goes on one half of the radio, and sometimes I might forget which half I'm transmitting on, and it you know, it's real easy to accidentally beacon on the wrong frequency. But you provided a great demonstration of what some of the kinds of noises that we hear on the radio, and you told us what caused it. So thank you for that, David.
Problem. Sorry about the mistake. I just want to clarify, though. I was the second guy. I heard someone else with some spurious transmissions, but I'm not sure who that was. I was just trying to cross a small flood area and having to hold my gear in, I guess, not normal places because I don't want it to, you know, fall into this giant pool of muddy water. So glad I can clarify that. And hopefully the person who was trying to get into the repeater before me has a chance to or can. So back to net, KG5 UBB.
Thanks again, David. No worries, no problem, and I appreciate you coming back. But let me continue talking just a little bit about the some of the noise that I had that was it was computer generated. I mean, it was digital traffic, but it was actually came from an Ethernet cord or a router. And in my shack, in one of my radios that I was using for nets and other things. So currently, I'm using a Kenwood radio. It's sitting on my kitchen table, you know, with a power supply and antenna running out the door under the door that's kind of getting coax smashed by the threshold, but a little bit. But and out to an outdoor antenna. But in my, I mean, like one corner of the house. If I was in the far other corner, diagonally from me, in my office or junk room or radio station or whatever we call that. Generally, we refer to it here as the blue room because the only room in my house is not painted either white or tan. So it's the blue room. But in there, I have an indoor antenna and then various radios and, you know, computers and other office equipment and routers for the family and party gear and all that sort of thing.
Hamnet.
And I also operated an Arden gateway, which is, for those of you who are unfamiliar, it's a link between the Arden and the ham radio, amateur radio emergency data network. It's a link between that and the live internet, so that you know, you have a gateway from the ham radio portion to the internet portion. But it turns out that I have several Ethernet patch cables that are not, they're either worn in the wrong spots or they're of low quality or they're just too old or they may be cut to exactly the right length so that there's harmonics and other things. But so what was happening was in my receive on certain frequencies, I was getting what sounded like my squelch was just set too low. I was hearing the background hiss and various other forms of noise in my receive, and it was constantly breaking squelch when it shouldn't. I turned the squelch up a little bit, and that works for a bit, and then it gets worse. Keep turning the squelch up, but it was only on certain frequencies. And over a little bit of time, listening to what other people were listening to and whatnot, other folks helping me around the neighborhood and further away and whatnot on various frequencies, kind of got a pattern that it was only my shack. It was not in anyone else's radios or any other problems. So whatever it was very localized to me. I started unplugging different things, or actually I started powering off different things, trying to identify where it was. And at one point, I resolved the problem by changing out an Ethernet patch cable, an unshielded UTP, unshielded twisted pair, old Cat5 type cable I've had around for years. And by changing that out, it solved my issue temporarily. I would move Ethernet cables around and move equipment around a little bit. I mean, only sometimes a few inches, sometimes a few feet. And sometimes it would go away when I moved something, and sometimes it would, I could move it around and it didn't make any difference. But usually it would fix it. And then when you're not hearing it, now you lost track of what it was. One of the things that I did was unplug things and plug it back in again. A lot of times that would fix it. So I think to myself it must have been oxidation on the contacts. It came clear while testing. CCWT is what we used to talk about it in the industry. But just the act of testing things and moving things around clears up trouble sometimes. So, a week later or something, of course, it returned, and I found that moving wires around or moving equipment around would usually temporarily make it go away. But the bottom line, after lots of different types of movements and changes and whatnot, I found that I had more than one issue. I definitely had one bad Ethernet cable, and because I could move that cable to another spot, the noise would go away while I have it unplugged, and when I plugged it back in on another piece of equipment, it still generated noise. So I absolutely know. By the way, I tied that cable in about 3 knots just to make sure that I, could identify that's the culprit. Sometimes I mark them with tape or tags, and then they find out that the tag comes off or whatever. But before I cut it up in little pieces out of anger, I wanted to, test it and make sure that it was truly the cable. Anyway, setting that cable aside for the next month or so, I never had any issues. But then it started coming back. This time, I identified it down to one specific router. If I could unplug that particular router or turn it off, that noise went away. It was actually, generated some radio interference and whatnot. I could power cycle it, and the noise would go away for a little while, but it came back until I actually took that router out and moved it, and that pretty much solved the bulk of the problem. The other thing I discovered in all of this process, the things that David mentioned, for example, ferrite beads, they really are important, I think, for especially if you're using a little bit longer cables. A cable will pick up RF just like an antenna will, and it will inject that into your radio or into your computer. That is an issue. Ferrite beads will help that, but I think there's a better solution. Forgive all the buttons here, but sometimes when I get on a subject I'm really thinking about and caring about, I wind up talking for too long. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't time out the repeater. I lose track of time when it's something I'm passionate about. But shielded cables, shielded twisted pair of the variety that we use for Arden. The shielding in Arden is generally used for the purpose is a little bit different. But I've discovered that every cable, regardless of what it goes to, every Ethernet cable or any other type of cable in your shack, regardless if it's for between computers or routers or radios, in my view, should be shielded twisted pair. And copper wire, by the way, seems to make a difference instead of some of the more flexible or lightweight copper-clad aluminum and different other types of construction. There's category 5, 6, and 7, or 5E or A or whatever, 6A or whatever they are. There's different numbers of things. And some of the ones that are built for these gigabyte transfer high-speed data rates, they you know, the copper-clad aluminum, you know, high-speed signals travel on the outside edge. High-frequency signals travel on the outside edge of the skin of the conductors, and so these cables that are made for really high-speed circuits. I'm not saying they're bad cables. They work for very high-speed, you know, gigabyte services, but for some applications, they're not as good as others. For example, power over Ethernet. Power over Ethernet actually works better, in my experience, for if you're using copper conductors of a larger gauge, like Cat5, shielded twisted pair Cat5 pure copper of maybe 23 gauge or 24 gauge wire. They conduct, you know, the voltage at a lower resistance, so there's less loss in the cable. So for powering your equipment, they're better. If for longer runs, they're better. And the shielding protects from a number of different things, from power spikes to a little bit of lightning protection and a little bit of ground hum and ground, other types of interference. There's lots of benefits for using shielded twisted pair. And what I have just done now in my personal life is I won't purchase another Ethernet patch cord unless it's shielded, and I'm trying to eliminate from all my inventory of various parts and junk. I'm trying to get all of the lower quality cabling out of my network.
Hamnet.
When I was using CRTs and using modems like the KP3 Camtronics modem to run packet and stuff, going back a few years, I discovered back then that it was very important, especially the computers, back in those days, and all the equipment, was not so RFI protected as most equipment is today. But it made a tremendous difference if you had the modem too close to the computer. In other words, if it was 6 inches or a foot or whatever away, it would pick up a lot of noise out of your computer. But by moving it 2 feet or 3 feet away, you could resolve that. And ferrite beads would help resolve that as well. So, and then your radio, your power supply can generate equipment noise into your radio. And separating your power supply from your radio by a few feet can make a difference. Or putting ferrite beads on the power cable can sometimes make a difference if the noise is coming from somewhere else. If it's coming actually up the power line, then the ferrite beads probably aren't going to help. But if it's induced from another source into the power lines or into your connection cable or microphone cable or whatever, then having it either shielded or adding ferrite beads may resolve your problem. Of course, the identification of this issue gets to be a little challenging sometimes, and you probably heard on various nets over the last few weeks, there's been quite a bit of conversation about noise and different types of noise and what some of the solutions are, from changing out power supplies or changing the some capacitor in a power supply that causes the power supply to flutter, or moving the base of the radio further away from the power supply. In other words, when you set it right on top of a power supply, it may pick up a lot of noise that if you move it a few feet away, that will resolve it. Ferrite beads resolve it sometimes, and different cables will resolve it sometimes. And sometimes we just have not resolved it. We still wonder what sometimes causes the noise. So much for my personal experience on a few different kinds of noises generated by computers. But I think the bottom line summary is separate the equipment as far as reasonably possible, moving it a foot or 2 or 3 or 4 across the room if you can. A lot of times will help. Using high quality cables, or especially shield cables, using ferrite beads wherever possible, and then unplug other things like ceiling fans and other kinds of things that you have that you may think are unrelated while you're listening to the noise. If you can hear it go away when you turn off something else, that will really help you identify where it might be coming from. KG5 UBB. David, please go ahead, but be advised you're starting to get a little bit weak. I don't know if it's your location or your batteries or whatever, but at the moment we still hear you. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. And I concur, by the way. And thank you for reminding me that I didn't finish my Little Elm High School story with medical reserve corps testing, and that was that we got actually a group of folks, some of the amateurs. We have some amateurs that actually attend that high school, and they have noticed that they have the same issue within the school, and several people have noted the same issue, around the parking lot and that sort of thing. But we went had kind of a systematic check with various people at various times, and discovered that on weekends, for example, when they apparently turn off whatever is generating it, we couldn't find or detect any issue. Even after school hours, I was like Friday night, for example, we could not find that there was an issue. So it's definitely something in the school, like routers or wireless or Wi-Fi or something like that, or maybe something else altogether. Maybe it's air conditioning motors or something, but that have the capacitors, start capacitors or run capacitors that are flaky. There's a number of things that could be generating it, but apparently it only happens while the school is in session. So that's one location we were thinking of targeting, and maybe having some folks with direction finders teaming up a group of amateurs to actually go there and see if we could track it down. But we never went that far. But we have encouraged other folks that may attend the school that are amateurs, high school kids and stuff, or teachers or other people that work there in the vicinity, to occasionally drop by and see what they can detect, and if it's more powerful on one side of the school than the other, and things like that. So that's one place that we actually are semi-actively keeping an eye on to see if we can identify the source. And if we can, chances are that same type of activity is what's causing the trouble at Geyer High and a number of other schools in the vicinity that we know are significantly noisy. Okay, let me ask any of you that may have participated in noise mitigation, like maybe several of you together have joined forces in particular intersections or gas stations or industrial areas that maybe generated noise. Is there anyone of you who has participated in trying to track down noise that would like to make some comments or share a little bit about your experiences of how you've done it or what works and maybe what doesn't work? I want to ask Randy and perhaps Scott. Well, Scott dared to concern. Let me go to Scott first. Scott, how do you feel about the last however long I rambled about noise? Did we cover what you were suggesting that we cover, or did I somehow miss the point?
Really, I think you pretty much covered it. At least you covered everything I was thinking of. My chat with Randy here. I'm going to actually step aside here. I've got to actually take a phone call, and then I've got some other folks I've got to deal with here. So I'm going to actually step aside. I'll go ahead and leave the net logger up, though. KG5RJR. Hamnet.
Thank you, Scott, and appreciate you leaving that up. I got so carried away on noise talking, I was ignoring my computer, and it actually shut off on me. Not just screensaver, but powered off. Went to sleep. I'm hoping I can get it back where it was. But thank you, Scott, and please do whatever you need to do. And I'd like to ask Randy, by the way, N5VPR, if you're listening, would you like to make a comment or perhaps describe the issue if you wouldn't mind? I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too. But Randy, anything you'd like to comment on?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Thanks everybody for lots of suggestions, both on air here with the net and via the net logger instant messenger. Kind of what's come about. There are so many potential sources for noise. That's probably my biggest area of confusion right now is which area to focus on first, which should kind of be my priority. Looking and listening at the noise, like you talked about trying to identify it, most of my noise is occurring between 20 meters and 80 meters, just the standard HF ranges. Looking at it with a pan adapter, it covers a broad, sweeping range of several megahertz at a time, where it will increase gradually across those and then back down with no discernible pulse pattern or a woodpecker or any of those types of noise. It's just a broadband, low-level background noise. And trying to figure out which area to focus on first to troubleshoot is what's got me going too many directions at once. So I really appreciate all the suggestions there. A lot of good information. N5VPR.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for sharing that. And also, like you said, there's lots of different things that go, but the type of noise sometimes makes a big difference. In other words, if it's a background staticky noise, or if it's a pulsating kind of noise, and if it's a random kind of noise or a constant pattern of noise, then sometimes that might help identify the types of things that can cause that type of noise. One of the more that we hear on a lot of people's radios is, in my experience, we always called it a ground hum. But in other industries, in the music world and the musical instrument, guitar playing and that kind of stuff, versus say telephone operations and things. Different industries have different types of noises that may be similar reasons for the noise, but they have different terminology to describe it. And I know one of the noises you get in like stage groups, Perry did a great presentation on crosstalk kind of noises and intermod that we call on radio. Between wireless microphones and things like that, when you have multiple microphones, in an environment, and there may be other public radio stations or television stations or other things that may be getting into your systems. And there's a whole series of things that involve, like crosstalk and those kinds of things. But the hum, one that's been talked about lately a lot has been ground loops, and which generally result in kind of a hum at about 120 hertz or 60 hertz, or some harmonic thereof that sometimes is really loud, sometimes just silently in the background. And sometimes if it's that kind of noise, and you look at your equipment and find out that if you have them all plugged into the same power outlet, or that are on the same breaker, the circuit breaker in your home or your business or wherever, just powering them off the same place, or a power strip or something where it all gets its juice from the same side of the same transformer, a lot of times will resolve the noise. The grounding system and the phasing of the electricity in your house, the distance between your outlet and your electric meter or whatever, if they're all on the same circuit in the same spot, that would eliminate some types of noises. Back in the days before we used grounded 3-conductor power things or polarized plugs, simply unplugging an amplifier and flopping the cord, the other thing, and plugging it back in again would resolve the issue of, say, an electric guitar player getting shocked when his lips touch the microphone. If the amplifier for the guitar was plugged into a different circuit or had the cord flipped over, then you would wind up with it generating enough voltage to throw a spark between your lips and your microphone if the PA system was operating out on a different circuit than the guitar amplifier. Things like that. There's a lot of that has been resolved because most everybody uses 3-way plugs and the equipment is grounded a little better and shielded and that sort of thing. But there still is issues like that around that can be resolved very simply. Sometimes the resolution is simple, but identifying what resolution is needed can be very complex. But all I can say is good luck. Try a variety of things, and come back from time to time and give us all some advice on the kinds of things that might have solved your problem. But never stop seeking a solution. Never stop experimenting on various things. If you're talking about radio equipment and antennas and a number of different issues, bonding and grounding is a very important concept. Well, we could go on for hours about bonding and grounding, but one thing that we're coming up on our second hour now of this net, and one thing I sort of promised we'd get back to at least a little bit, and some things that I'd like to say about Arden and about voice over IP. And I don't want to I mean, I don't want to start a war, or I don't want to start an argument, or criticize what someone else may have said, or anything like that. But hopefully, whoever may have said that you cannot run voice over IP over Arden was really saying possibly two things. One is either they personally can't do it, which may be understandable for a variety of reasons, and the other is that depending on the strength of your Arden signal and the quality of your signal and link quality and a number of other circumstances, it might be difficult. However, I need to share some personal experience here. I say you, let me say the world, the industry, people, those of us that have Arden and have it operating, many of us have demonstrated many times, including myself, that yes, you can certainly do VoIP. I have a phone here. I could call whoever said that and talk to them over Arden if they would like me to. Although if they don't believe that it can be done, they probably won't believe what I'm using on my end. So we'd have to come up with some way to video it or demonstrate it or do it in person so that you can actually verify, that I'm not cheating in some way. But I have personally done VoIP with several regular players on this net. We have done video over IP. We have done two-way video, actually three-way video, with voice and video over Arden, over IP. I mean, it's not only voice over IP, but video over IP. But that IP was running over Arden. And in other words, I can personally say, yes, absolutely, it can be done, and I can prove it, and I have done it. But just because I can do it doesn't mean that everybody everywhere on Arden can do it. You need to have, like I said, a certain link quality, certain speed, a number of different things. But absolutely, it can be done. I don't know if I have struck a personal nerve in me and I'm defending it. I don't know, but if anyone tells you that it cannot be done, if anyone tells you that anything cannot be done, I would be skeptical, no matter what it is, because it only means that they can't do it, or they don't know how to do it, or they don't know someone who has done it, or that they don't believe what they're seeing. Because how many times use anything you'd like. A human can't go to the moon. Okay, well, I used to say, a human can't jump 3 feet. Well, I cannot jump 3 feet, but that doesn't mean other humans can't jump 3 feet. I have a friend who uses an antenna, HF antenna, for 2-meter work, and everybody says you can't do that. You can't use an 80-foot alpha delta, 40-meter, 20-meter antenna on 2 meters. Well, he does it all the time. He's done it on nets. So, you know what I mean? It's not, I was with him when he bought the antenna. So, I mean, I think I timed out the repeater. Okay, anyway, I'm done. I've gotten too carried away here on one subject. I didn't mean to do that to everyone. Let me ask if there's anyone that has a comment, anything that you'd like to share before we close the net, please.
GB, one question.
Rick, please go right ahead.
I hope I got the name right, but if I didn't, please forgive me. This question is directed at, I believe it was Dennis that had the HOA. My question to him is, and if it's not too personal, of course you don't have to answer, but HOA, is that an apartment? Is it a house? Is it a duplex? I'm kind of curious because I have an idea for him. And the idea, Dennis, or if I got your name right, I hope I did, is to run like a G5 RV, just put it on top of your roof, just physically lay it on top. And I don't think anybody's going to see it up there. Then you have an all-band antenna. Just putting it out there. AG5GB, back to you.
Thank you. I know that Todd mentioned that. I think a couple other folks did. But first, since you mentioned Dennis, let me ask Dennis, 85 OIV, are you, do you have an issue with this, or would you like to make a comment?
Well, it wasn't me. You do have the wrong person in your mind. I don't live in an HOA. I have an apartment, but I do those restrictions. But it was directed towards someone else. This is KG5OIV.
I think the one guy who talked about HOA antennas and building flagpoles and various other concepts was Todd. And I'm trying to remember his call sign. I'm trying to get it on my screen. I think it was a Whiskey Echo 5 Tango Romeo. I'm saying that off the top of my head. But anyway, I'm talking to Todd. Are you still with us?
Whiskey Echo 5 Tango Romeo, I am here, and you may hear the YL doing some stapling in the background.
We love our YLs doing stuff in the background. Mine personally has brought me food, coffee, things to drink, and of course I don't get much chance to eat them because I've been I talk too much. But I appreciate what she does, and occasionally, my microphone's pretty sensitive, and you may hear her on occasion. But if she's listening, tell her welcome to the net. That we enjoy her presence and glad to know she's listening. But no, she's not disturbing anything on our end. So if you'd like to talk to Eric for a minute about his idea of an antenna, feel free. Do you want to refine your comments that you made earlier about stealth antennas, or see if Eric has a suggestion for you?
For that, and thank you. So I have my ham license only came into my life less than a year ago, and sometime before that we put in radiant barrier in our attic. So I have a continuous foil sheet essentially right inside the joist of my entire attic. So my 2 meter, 70 centimeter antenna wouldn't work in there, and I have a reasonable belief that somebody could correct me if I put an HF antenna on the roof that metal substance right inside the roof would mess with it too much. But I'm open to discussion. Thank you. Whiskey Echo 5 Tango Romeo, back to net.
GB comment.
AG5TV, go ahead, please.
Actually may be a benefit having radiant barrier. If we can figure out a way to run like a wire antenna. And I'm referencing a G5 RV because that's what I run. I actually have 2 of them. Just lay it on top of the roof, kind of, I don't know how to describe this pattern. You run one wire down, not bend it, but, kind of horseshoe it back the other way and over the other side of the roof, and just kind of do that back and forth until you get it where you want it. Test your SWRs. I bet you it'll work, but having radiant barrier may actually be a benefit because it'll reflect that stuff back out into the atmosphere. That's what it did for my roof until we actually figured out a way to run it as a sloper from the chimney down. Now, I know, Todd, you can't do that because you're an HOA and they will see that antenna, but my theory is if you paint it black and put it on top of your roof, it should work just fine. Back to you guys, AG5GB.
Thank you, Eric. I might mention 2 things. One is that we have another attendant that his roof and has contacted, I believe, all continents. I'm not sure. I know that he's been to Europe and South America and places like that on his G5 RV that does lay perfectly flat, like you said, Eric, right smack on his roof. He's even got as far as tied some ropes on the ends of it, and occasionally repositions it. Although it's an all-directional antenna, but sometimes he reorients it more east to west or more north to south. But he also has put up, my friend that's nameless at the moment, has put up a flagpole antenna. He's one of two people I know that use a flagpole antenna, but I have not heard him talk about the flagpole antenna yet. But other than the fact that it is absolutely a flagpole, and with the HOA and whatever, they may have a height on how tall it can be for flagpoles, but I don't believe there's a single HOA that I've heard of that does not allow you to fly the American flag. They may have size and height restrictions, but I'm pretty sure you're allowed to fly stars and stripes. So anyway, it's I guess what I'm saying is I'm concurring with what Eric just said. I know of other examples, and I personally have a G5 RV, but I don't have it up in the air, so I can't comment from a personal experience. But let me ask Todd, is any of this helpful? I did want to say one other thing.
Hamnet.
If you're running a small vertical antenna, it doesn't seem to matter what frequency that I'm aware of, whether it's UHF, VHF, or 220, or any of the HF bands. Having a solar shield under it, in other words, if your antenna is on top of your roof outside, the solar shield in many cases aids. It is helpful, as Eric said. It's actually helpful. It helps reflect the signal out to the world. So you can use it as it can be an asset, or a liability, depending on which side of it you're on. But anyway, I'd like to hear comments from Todd again.
I like the idea of the G5 RV, so I made a note of what it was, and I will look into that one. When my son, Whiskey Golf 1, Golf Echo Mike, gets home from college, I may have him up on the roof helping me do that one. I have my 2 meter 70 centimeter happens to be above the solar barrier, just in a spot where people don't see it. And you're right, it is what I'm talking on now and seems to benefit from it. So I appreciate the input. Whiskey Echo 5, Tango Romeo, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Eric. Thanks everyone, by the way, who has stuck with us this long and is still listening. David, I especially want to say thank you again for your contributions to that, and also for the YouTube feeds. And Randy, you gave us a lot to talk about, especially me. Being noise is one of my passionate issues. And thanks again for everything that you do every net for the website and digitallyspeakingnet.net. And boy, there's just a whole list of people I'd like to say thank you to, like Scott and Tim, by the way. Tim has struggled to do this net on occasion in the past many times, and Tim always likes to volunteer to help whenever he can, sometimes logging, sometimes being net control. And Dennis has done net control for this net in the past too, and I appreciate that. So, okay, my ham thanks. And I want to thank Laird for the concept and the phrase ham thanks and the phrase digitally speaking. So, with that, I think I'm ready to close the net for today. However, this net is as much for all of y'all to say whatever's on your minds as it is for me to say what's on mine. So please, if there's anything that you would like to say today to the whole group or to each other, or perhaps you have an announcement that you'd like to make, something happening in your personal life or in the ham radio world you want to remind us of, Anything at all, this is your chance to say whatever's on your mind before we close the net. So, anyone want to make a last-minute announcement? Please come now.
AG5, GB.
Eric, please go ahead.
Appreciate that, sir. Real quick, without going into a whole lot of details, tomorrow, bank conditions are going to open up. Actually, they're open right now, which is kind of surprising, but I guess the solar storm, the geomagnetic storm that we're having has passed us. The coronal hole is probably on the edge of there, so propagation is good today. But tomorrow, if you're into digital voice, well, it doesn't matter what you're into. Propagation should get a little better, and then Tuesday a little better, and then et cetera, throughout the rest of the week as the solar flare rotates into the Earth's view. And I believe, if I have my facts correct, tomorrow is the club meeting at the EOC. I may be wrong on that. It may be next Monday, but I believe it's tomorrow. And that's all I got. AG5, GB, back to you.
Thank you, Eric. I hope I didn't neglect to say thank you when I was running down a list of people to thank. And Todd, too. I want to thank him for bringing up things that gave us a big... Everybody brought up things that we could talk about and share with the group. So I appreciate everybody's contributions. And especially... Eric, you have taken over net control on this net several times, and I really appreciate that as well. I'm trying to enlist, I don't know, perhaps a group of folks. I'm hoping that, over time that we might be able to rotate or partner up, perhaps schedule different people to present different topics at different times throughout future nets. In other words, if somebody wants to be net control for the whole net, that's excellent, that's super. But if we could find several people that might have 10 or 15 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, whatever you want, to be net control and talk about their particular favorite interests and handle questions and others call signs and whatnot, and they would actually be the net control for that 15-minute window or 20-minute, 30-minute window, whatever they choose. I will still be here, or another net control will be here to relieve them when they get, done with their portion if they don't want to do it all. But I'd like to see this net kind of evolve into a team effort with a bigger team. Right now, there's probably 4 of us that team up to do this. And when you think of alternate net control and a logger, the actual net control. I don't remember now what the different ones are. We've talked about it in the past. But if we could expand that group, and it would make it easier on other people. I hate when I'm not here, but there are times that I cannot be here. So if we could spread it around or come up with a way to partner up for have it as a group effort, that would be amazing in my mind, and I'd love to see that happen. So all of you be thinking of that, and one of the things that maybe next week might suggest some ways that we could accomplish that. But would anyone else like to make a comment before we close the net? KG5 UBB. David, go ahead.
KG5PMN.
David, thank you very much for your thoughts. Larry, KG5PMN, go ahead, please.
KG5PMN, this is actually James here, Fort Worth. I'm using the ham prep test. It's an app on the Android phone. KG5PMN.
James, I apologize. You and I have been talking to each other, over a long period of time, and for me to blunder out the wrong name, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time? You're looking for information about Android phones. Was there a particular application you had in mind, or what type of Android phones? Or if you could just say that one more time, please.
KG5PMN. No, in response to the previous question, I'm using an app on my Android phone called Ham Prep Test or something like that. Ham Prep on the Android phone. KG5PMN.
Okay, so Ham Prep is I imagine that's a phone app for Android that is a preparation for the general license, and you can download that, install it, and use it to study. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. It covers all three levels: tech, general, and extra. KG5PMN.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I was going to say I could point out a couple other websites as well, and I know that some use flashcards. There's some that use only I'm talking about the free ones, by the way. There's some that are paid and really good, but there's on the internet there's one that use like I said, flashcards. Another one that gives you the question and only the correct answer, so you're not getting cluttered with the other things that you. Yeah, I have a habit of if I study for something like that, I remember the wrong answers as well. So if I read the question and the answer, it helps me know the right thing instead of sometimes I have been known to relearn the wrong. I have it right in my mind, and then I find out after looking at all the different possibilities, then I kind of confused, and I remember the wrong one instead of the right one. So there's, everybody has to study in their own way, I think, and I don't think, David, from the bits that I know about you and your experience and your level of understanding, I support you any way I can. I think that you won't have any trouble just because of what I've heard about you from other sources. And I want to say best of luck, good luck, and if anyone has any other contributions or offers any suggestions, please come down. If anyone has any other closing comments they'd like to make before we close the net, please come down with your call sign. I heard a station, it sounded like it might have been PMM, but it was a little weak. If you could come again, well, whoever that was, please just come right again with your call sign and continue on with your comment.
I just want to make a comment on your Arden telephone
thing that you had mentioned earlier, the Mansfield group has a artist hostess set up with cameras and everything like that on it. And they have an actual VOB telephone system where they can call each other without having to actually use the landline. Inside BMS.
Cool. Thank you very much. We just for everybody to know too. You know, up in this area we have some folks using VoIP telephones that have internet dialing back and forth. I'm not sure we have like a whole like major project or anything going on. We have several people that are doing it. I'll even mention the fact that Hal has done a lot with VoIP, and Dale, KB5 NFT. I have done a little bit, but mine is, you know, I have done VoIP and voice and video and moving in a moving vehicle. By the way, there was some question about whether that, you know, could remain sync and work and whatnot. Of course, I didn't go very fast. I didn't go very far, but I've demonstrated that video on the move while holding a two-way conversation, two-way video conference, if you'd like to call it that. You know, is possible and can work. But as far as an organization or organized effort, that would be interesting. We should find out probably who all is into phones and how it works and exchange IP addresses and numbers. We could probably be better organized at it, in my opinion. But you know, the fact that it's working, and also if there is some testing that we can do for further distances. For example, the group in Arlington, if they are doing this on a regular basis, we should see about whether we can connect up with them over Arctic and things like that. So there's a lot of things that, a lot of exploration and a lot of things that can still be done. I think we have a really, you know, our network here is in Denton County. I'm saying here, but it's Denton County and Dallas County and you know, the Rockwall area, Richardson area, and South Lake and Grapevine and other. It's expanding considerably, and it's growing all the time, and more nodes are going up, and as we get more, you know, the whole system works better. So thank you for giving us that info about them, and if I get a chance, I think I'm going to try contacting them and see if there's something that can be done between our groups. So thank you very much for that. Does anyone else have a comment before we close? David, go ahead, please. Thank you for the comment and good luck. Is there anyone else that has anything to say before we close?
KG5, CYC, just wanted to say hello, and thanks for a wonderful net, and KG5, CYC out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Always nice to know that someone has been listening and that this has been beneficial. So thank you very much for letting us know. Anyone else? Well, hearing no others, I want to thank you all again for participating in the Digitally Speaking Net on the Dakar repeater 146.92. My name is Lee Norup. I'm in Highland Village, Texas. My call sign is Kilo 5 Whiskey X-Ray Romeo, or K5WXR. If any of you want to ever contact me on the home phone or email or whatever, is the personal information is on qrz.com. So feel free to share any ideas or concerns, or if there's something I'm doing you don't like, please let me know, and I'll see if I can change. I can't promise, but anyway, I appreciate all of you who come back from week to week and participate on this net. It's I think that it makes for a fun Sunday afternoon. I want to warmly tell you thank you for being here. This is K5WXR clear. Okay, not quite clear. I need to reset the repeater and save my log. But give me another 30 seconds here to hear the repeater reset.
This repeater is returned to normal operation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing that, whoever that might have been. I cannot see my cursor at the moment, so I appreciate that. Again, this is K5WXR. Clear.
You're welcome, Lee.
Okay, everybody, thanks for watching this live stream of the Digitally Speaking Net. I'm your live streamer, I guess, David Puma, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo, and just wanted to thank everybody for joining us on this live broadcast. We should be getting it shut down pretty soon. Have a great weekend, and 73.
Okay, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo here. Just speaking on low power on the receiver's output frequency. Wanted to say thanks for watching, and should be turning off the net. Should be turning off the net now. So thanks for watching, and have a great weekend. Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. Switching off to YouTube live stream.